Welcome to Frankly Speaking. It's a special Frankly Speaking, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, as the first full-time woman finance minister of the country. How does it feel after presenting a budget, a speech that lasted 127 minutes?
I don't think it has sunk in yet that I'd spoken for that long. But it's an honor that makes me feel, is it me? Sometimes I have a sense of disbelief, but it's a moment of great happiness for me. It's given me an opportunity to stand up and speak in a house which has seen such eminent great people, for which of course I'm very grateful to the Prime Minister who put that faith in me that I can do it, and he's been immensely supportive during the preparation of the budget.
All right, with this whole enigma of presenting a budget, you were Minister of State for Finance in 2014.
Yes.
Did you ever think at that time that you would occupy the Finance Minister's chair?
Never.
And read out a budget in Parliament?
Not even for a minute. I didn't at that time even have a remote thought that I might one day be there. No. But it was great learning experience under Arun Jaitley ji when I was in MOS under him. And even before presenting this budget, I'll even say it openly here, I did go and receive his blessings. He's been a great inspiration, and working under him in the Finance Ministry was such a beautiful experience, because he would give you so much to work and never breathe down your neck. I've learned so much at that time, and I always remember. And I wouldn't hesitate to say that one little sankocha I have in my mind when I enter that room every day nowadays.
Sankoch means
hesitation.
Why?
I've never been on the other side of the desk, and if at all, I've only seen Jaitley ji there. So when I enter, it is his image that I see every time. So that sankocha is there in me. It must go away sometime, sure.
Emotional moment. But what was the Prime Minister's advice to you before you started the budget exercise, and this morning before you stood up to present the budget to the country?
Well, the Prime Minister's saying one thing or the other is not the point. Everything that he said was to make the budget meaningful for the common man. He didn't want the budget to be an exercise for the pedagogic people, or for the people who are interested in knowing the theory behind making budget, or the abstractions that we have to discuss about. What is the expenditure versus revenue? Are you following the FRBM? So his advice has been, and till the last minute has been, even as you say all that, because that's important for understanding the budget, but even as you do that and say all that, you have to convey to the common man that you're doing all this, but does it mean anything to him? So his advice has been to make the budget meaningful and make it relate to a common man as much as it relates to the think tanks, the economists, previous finance ministers, and so on. So his advice has been, do this, but make sure you convey a message to the common man.
Previous finance ministers brings me to the question of Mr. P. Chidambaram, who's just held a press conference, and he said that this is the most opaque budget. Nobody has understood what the vision is, he says, and nobody knows where the numbers are going to come from, where the money is going to come from. And that's probably from the opposition the biggest criticism, if you can call it that, of your budget, that it is big on announcements, but supporting numbers, supporting budgets have not been disclosed.
I wish he does a bit more homework, looks into the budget documents which have been issued out, and also look into the annexure to my speech. Every question that he asks about the numbers are all there. I didn't want to add reading all of them and make it a longer speech. It's a budget which gives the big picture for Indian economy. It's a budget which speaks about what are the kind of distinct decisions that we've taken and that which is going to spur growth in India. It's a budget which has set the vision for the next 10 years and with a mid-term target also. So with that approach, we've also laid it very clearly as to where and how are we going to approach all this, keeping the common man at the center of every decision making that we're doing. So we've not hid anything. He has been too quick to come to speak about it. I wish he does, and I'm sure he can do it in a brief period of time. But do look into the budget documents. Do look into the annexure to the speech. All the number and more that you want is all there.
So, Ms. Sitharaman, the Congress has also stated, and this is Randeep Singh Surjewala who said that this is an utterly lackluster, nondescript, uninspiring, directionless budget. Zero on economic revival, rural growth, job creation, urban rejuvenation. And Jyotiraditya Scindia says there is intent, but where is the content? Those are some of the responses that are coming in from the Congress party.
Even as they say all this, if they would pick out some things and tell me what is this and ask me a question, what is this or what is that, it gives me the confidence that they've gone through the document and they're saying. If they were probably being lazy to look for where's job creation, where's this, where is that, I didn't have to go by their headings. I've given them my heading. I've given them a picture, not just them, everybody, a picture of India in which we are doing several things for rural India, several for urban, several for women, several for youth, and several about the Indian soft power. Under that, there's ever so many things. Normally, you have budget proposals and sanctions all scattered everywhere. Oh, this is also pertaining to women. Oh, this is also pertaining to skill development. Oh, this is also on research. Instead of doing that, I've put all these which are scattered around everywhere into one basket and said, if you're talking of women, everything to do with them is here. And through that, how am I reaching my target? How am I going to achieve my vision? So it requires a bit of applying one's mind, reading the document, correspondingly matching it with the numbers that I've supplied, and then coming back to do a press conference. Press is always available for the opposition. Don't rush in.
Ms. Sitharaman, I want to ask you, many say that this is a budget that's a Robin Hood budget. It takes from the rich, gives to the poor. While the emphasis on the poor has been evident through the first phase, many thought that the second phase of the Modi government, Modi 2.0, would really look at creating some quality jobs, some quality, not make a profit a bad word. You said that in your speech. But it so turns out that you increase the taxes on the super rich. Nobody knows, and that's something that Mr. Chidambaram has also raised, that what is the effective increase in tax rates for those earning from 2 to 5 crore and then 5 and above. Question number one. And
that was answered by the Revenue Secretary in the press conference, if you would have heard him.
So, would you like to?
Yes. It's not robbing one and serving the other. No. And that is why when I've concluded my part A, I did come up with the statement that today we have to think about our duty to the country. That doesn't mean that only the super rich have a duty to the country. All of us have it. But at the same time, if I'm building infrastructure, if I'm building roads, all of us use it. So when I have a welfare program and take money from the taxation revenue and do the welfare program, yes, I serve the poor. But not every tax money goes for that. Tax money also goes for creating common infrastructure which a rich man and a poor man equally use. Greenfield airports, Sagarmala, inland waterways. Are we saying only the poor use it? Is the rich man's export-worthy goods not moving by them? Where does that get constructed from? So, as long as income disparity is so distinct, it will always feel as though only some pay and others don't. But in this government, we have made it a clear plan of everyone being financially brought into inclusiveness. And not just the super rich. If you're able to draw out 1 crore of cash from your account within a year, a cash withdrawal of 1 crore or more, we're asking them to pay TDS as well.
So a withdrawal tax of sorts.
Yes, in the sense, if you are not having an alternative of paying electronically or through checks or through credit cards, and you insist on taking that quantum of cash from one single account and within 1 year, tell us where it goes. And in that case,
so I can have multiple accounts and beat your system?
Yeah, but that is also nowadays very clearly through your KYC being established.
So you're saying per person or per account?
Per account, 1 crore or more withdrawal within 1 year is what I'm taxing. That's not robbing Peter and paying Paul. It is very clearly where you seem to be depending on cash. A transaction for which now alternative methods are available. In order to incentivize those alternative methods, which a positive incentivization has also happened, where we have very clearly told everybody to give provision for BMAP, UPI and all other card facilities, QR code and so on, so that people are incentivized to use card. Now, if so much effort is going on, what is the need for cash transaction? I can understand if you're a cash moving company. From one ATM, I have to go fill an ATM, I am doing business in moving cash as a commodity, for instance. I can understand those companies, but for the rest? So let there be some kind of, so we are not taking it only from the super rich and end of the day saying is this one is surcharge, why is it being surcharged, why can't it be taxed, all that debate aside. It's a message, it's a budget which incentivizes digital payment. It's a budget which discourages cash transactions. So I'm making my reasons and logic and justifications open and clear.
And what
it's not opaque.
Well, I hope Mr. Chidambaram is watching this and getting some answers that he asked in his press conference. But Ms. Sitharaman, you said that through your budget, you had addressed various groups, the youth, the women, you've addressed rural and urban. Many people would look at that as direct quantification of your voter base. This is one vote bank, the youth, the other vote bank is the women, then there is the rural and a little bit in the urban. Many are asking this question today, that has the BJP, which used to be a party of the middle classes, abandoned the middle classes completely? Because there's not much apart from a little, for 45 lakh rupees, the homes that you give to some of the lower middle class people. Apart from that,
vehicles, if you take a term loan for electric vehicles, the benefit that you get within 7 years is over 3 lakhs. There is a tax deduction also there.
So you have to be a middle class with a house up to 45 lakhs and an electric vehicle to get any benefit from this budget.
Not just them. By having indirect tax through the GST, we have actually within 1 year given 94,000 crores benefit back to the people, because we've clubbed the taxes. When there were so many, we brought it to a reasonable lower rate. As a result of which, that is the amount of benefit which has gone to the people. Is that not also for the middle class? So, only 4 months ago, the tax slab was raised to 5 lakhs.
Not for everybody, only for those people who had income up to 5 lakh.
Yes.
It's not the raising of the standard.
So they are not middle class? They are also middle class. That was done for that middle class. If you were to treat them differently, then now I'm doing it for this middle class which is buying 45 lakhs. So middle class itself is a spectrum, like wide ranging band of people.
But Ms. Sitharaman, both the Prime Minister and yourself have talked about an aspirational India. An aspirational India is also full of educated people who are going and getting white collar jobs, who are looking for companies that will give them those white collar jobs. They're also looking for that kind of a little bit of a salary bracket which is in conformity with this aspirational India. What do they have to look forward to in the blueprint that Modi 2.0 brings to the table?
A better India, better connected India, the facilities that are available for all of us, opportunities for newer and fresher jobs, skilling of people. These also involve money from the government.
You're talking about skilling of people. The last target that was set in Modi 1.0 was a target of skilling 40 crore people. The actual achievement is 28 lakh, and out of those 28 lakh, the placements are at 12%. Is Skill India working?
No, now the placement issue is the one which I am trying to address. If the skill sets for which people are getting trained is not adequate for the jobs that are available, I need to give them training, whether in artificial intelligence or in robotics or in big data. If jobs are awaiting people there and enough skilled people are not available, I need to match them up. So I am doing the skilling very clearly, supporting skilling with that in mind. The new industries, Industrial Revolution 4.0 calls for more people, they want more people, and we are not able to give them the kind of skills. We need to do that.
And you're talking about 100 lakh investment over 5 years in infrastructure. Where's that money going to come from? Which means 20 lakh crore every single year, starting this year.
But haven't we proven in the last 5 years that the expenditure on infrastructure has actually materialized? And that is why we had achieved the extent of road building that we have achieved.
But
And
20 lakh crore
similarly
is a totally different ball game that we are talking about.
Yes, but we'll show the way in which we can mobilize. And that is why we've
strengthening the credit market, the debt markets. Is that the route that you're going to use to bring in?
We've voiced a lot of newer ways of creating assets in the country through borrowings from other ways also. All of them will
asset
bloom out.
monetization
Is one of the way, but we'll have to work out. We've formed a committee on it.
You haven't been able to sell Air India.
That's right.
Or a strategic disinvestment of Air India, even though the matter has been on the table for several months.
Now I've recommitted myself that I will do that now, and also not just Air India, but also those which have been in principle agreed to by the CCEA. So everything that has been given in principle agreement from the CCEA are going to be taken up for this investment.
Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, the other issue people are talking about is the biggest challenge for your government are actually three that have been outlined by your government, by the Prime Minister himself. Number one is reaching the $5 trillion target, for which we need to move to a growth rate of 8+%. Where is the roadmap for that?
What I've laid before you is the roadmap.
This is a vision document.
Not really. The vision for 10 years is laid out, and also various ways through which we are going to develop the economy from all aspects is what I read out.
So
for
what
2
is
hours.
the delivery schedule for end of this year, 2019-20?
Many of the things which I have voiced here are for 12 months, aren't they? I mean, of which at least 3 months have already passed. The initiatives have already been taken. Now with the budget allocations, we'll move faster towards that, particularly on defense manufacturing. We have big plans. We've already established the corridors in the last budget. Now we are bringing in a lot of testing labs and also matchmaking among industries which can produce things in India. Many of the Indian corporates themselves are doing a lot of good work for producing goods which are very relevant, components which are very relevant for defense. They are going to be doing that. So there are very many details which in a 2 hours I couldn't have accommodated.
On jobs, another viewpoint that has come out on jobs is that now Nirmala Sitharaman has decided that धंधा करो, हम धंधे के लिए पैसा अवेलेबल करेंगे, नौकरी हमसे मत मांगो. Is that the approach of this government?
No, it is also a question of building entrepreneurship in India. That's the original trait among Indians. Jobs came in post your British and when enterprise was stifled. We are now making sure that entrepreneurial spirit is what is supported by government. So it's not a question of whether government is giving the job or private sector is giving the job. We are facilitating you to create jobs, as many as you can. Whether you are running the business or not, you will be giving jobs for very many people. So it is the entrepreneurial skill that we want to support, through which many other jobs can be created.
So we will be a country of entrepreneurs rather than service providers?
You can still be a service provider. You won't be an employee. Majority of Indians should be now creating jobs, doing their own business, and for that we will facilitate. Government jobs are not the only way to earn a living.
Ma'am, the issue here is also about the fact that you have the biggest challenge on unemployment. 6.1%, a number that you and your government completely negated, denied ahead of elections. The same number was turned out to be true after the budget, after the elections. I want to ask you, with this kind of a challenge, where is the private investment going to come in from? Despite every single effort in the first phase of the Modi government, we haven't seen much movement on the ground. Credit availability has been a problem. Private animal spirit for investment has been a problem, and therefore jobs have been a problem.
You're right, but between 2014 and 19, you also know the double balance sheet problem which Indian industries faced. So if Indian industries want to revive that animal instinct and spirit in them, they also had the constraint of a bank sitting over several NPAs, as a result of which they couldn't take a call, they couldn't take a decision, they couldn't help in doing their regular business. And who got affected by it? The private entrepreneurs, private industries, private investors. As a result, it was a situation where the government was trying to see how best to resolve the NPA crisis and get the banks recapitalized so that they can start doing their business, lend and increase investment. That crisis itself is something which is behind our backs now. So I expect things to move forward now.
How can it actually work out in an economy where LIC, which is a government PSU, actually ends up covering up all the losses made by IL and FS? You know, this cross subsidization, this covering up of books, this trying to make good of a major financial nightmare is not really working.
No, it won't work, and I'm not encouraging that at all. On the contrary, what I'm saying is, which I've explained in my budget, if there is a collectively government holding which is beyond 51, if one institution of the government makes or holds a certain number of shares and government also holds, we should only bring the synergy between the two and reduce the collective government holding, so that at least retail shareholders can benefit and they can participate in companies, making them a lot more professional. So it's us who's taking the call. So you can't hold us responsible for not doing it. We are doing that now. That was an announcement in this budget.
You know, the fact is that the government is still shy of coming down below 50% of stakeholding in any of the PSUs. And until and unless that happens, style of running businesses is not going to change. Efficiency is not going to come in. Does the government have a blueprint for bringing its shareholding down in public sector undertakings below the 50% mark?
I broadly indicated what I want to do in terms of the 51% share and also government ownership. At the moment, we are making sure the efficient ones run. There's no change in that, and we are making sure those which are not efficient are handled in a lot more open and transparent way. That's the kind of decision that I can talk of, but not lay a blueprint. You would recall in Air India, we went with an open mind. But when circumstances were difficult and different, we've learnt a lesson on that. It's not a blueprint which is important, it's more like best operation to see how best we can keep our word in terms of disinvestment.
Many have questioned the fact that there was a vision statement of doubling farm incomes by 2022. It's remained more or less a vision statement and intention that was expressed. We are nowhere near doubling of farm incomes by 2022.
We are nowhere near 2022. We'll do it by then.
3 years. Last time doubling farm incomes took 22 years.
Now you have farmers getting a direct benefit transfer to their accounts.
That's a dole. That's not improving efficiency of farming.
That's fine, but that is only because till such a time his systems are improved, till such a time he is freed from the hassles of APMCs, which are entirely in the state's prerogative.
So which you have no control over. How will you?
No, that is one commitment which I have made here in the budget, that I am going to work with the states to ensure that if doubling should actually happen, APMC is also got to be reviewed.
Do you think Mamata Banerjee will work with you on
that?
Well,
her farmers will suffer. Her farmers will have to ask her that question. If she wouldn't do it, her farmers will have to say, why should they be denied doubling of income? So, irrespective of that, we are going to be working, and also the way in which we are connecting with ENAM. We are also making that whole big announcement that I have made, that we want Annadata to become Urja Data. The renewable energy commitment is not going to be the privy or exclusive right of somebody. Every farmer can produce energy and we shall take Urja from him. So these are ways in which he is going to have his income come.
Ms. Sitharaman, these sound like very promising and good intention issues. But like Jyotiraditya Scindia points out, that your zero budget farming, which you talk about in your budget, actually happens when the farm holdings are large and big. That is where zero budget farming actually works out.
Not really. Not really. There are states like Karnataka and Himachal Pradesh which have done very well in terms of implementing zero budget farming. 10,000 or more farmers only in Himachal Pradesh have been trained for it, and they are doing extremely well. Himachal doesn't have large holdings. Karnataka is also in agriculture holding getting fragmented. So I don't think that's right to conclude it's only when it is large farming that it can be done.
As far as you're concerned, which is the proposal, which is the vision statement that is closest to your heart in this budget?
Well, I think the commitments that we've made on water is something which I'll take very dearly, and from the finance ministry, that's something which I will immediately give full attention to, because that's critical for life. Irrespective of the region or state that we belong to, every state has water as a crisis issue. Irrespective of the quantum of the rain they receive or the wonderful perennial rivers that they have, water is an issue today. That I would say is the dearest.
Har Ghar Jal.
Yes.
That is your new mission statement.
Yes.
After, whether it's the Ujwala, whether it's
Ujala
and Shauchalaya.
Swachh Bharat mission.
All of these. Ms. Sitharaman, economic slowdown is a reality, whether we accept it or not.
But we are still the fastest growing economy in the world.
Are we happy with that?
No, we have to improve on it. But to constantly tell us, oh, slow down, and as a result, Modi's, got to be doing a lot more. Modi will do a lot more. But what is the slowdown we are talking about? Has it dragged us so badly down that we are not even able to retain our position? Every economy globally is slowing down. China slowed down so much. For everything we are told, oh, look at China, China is performing this. Why don't we tell ourselves, even better than China? Today our growth rate continues to be highest in the world.
But we are at 6.98. We need to be in 8 plus.
That's very well.
Region.
That's very well. But we've not lost the momentum. It may slow down a bit, but we are still going at that
Passenger
rate.
Sales are down. Capital formation is down. Diesel, petroleum product offtakes have suffered. White goods sales have suffered. Are we not in an economic slowdown? What have you done to spur up the consumption expenditure? Many would have thought that you would have given tax breaks to the middle class, who would have had more money in their pockets, and then the demand would have gone up, and that's the best way to actually increase growth.
I have actually done that. By giving the DBT to the poor, by making sure that houses are going to be cheaper, by making sure your purchase of vehicles are going to be cheaper, by making sure that banks are recapitalized and therefore more credit will flow. I am doing that. By recommitting myself for infrastructure expenditure from the public treasuries, I am doing that. When infrastructure amounts are spent, money goes into the pocket of people.
You are levying more taxes on diesel and petrol. Prices have gone up by 2 rupees per litre, and the opposition is up in arms. All of this is actually going to burn a hole in the pocket of the same middle classes you say you're trying to help.
But the inflation is at its lowest for the last several years. Does that not mean more money in the pockets of the poor or the middle class? You're not paying the money, 250 rupees for tuvar dal earlier. You're not paying 200 rupees for onion, which even at some point in time became cause for concern for many governments. Inflation rate has been maintained below 4% by this government all the 4-5 years.
Now it's going to go up because of the diesel petrol prices.
Now it's going to go up probably a little bit, but inflation also has to rise for the country to move forward. Inflation is such a animal that if it's too low, it gives you a problem. If it's too high, it gives you a problem. But it's too low now, and the benefit of that is low prices.
In infrastructure, are you confident that 100 lakh crore is something that's going to be made available through public expenditure measures that you're talking about? Because that is something that can also rev up the economic growth rate.
Yes, economic growth and spurring economic growth is actually the message in many of the things that we've spoken today in the budget. Other than giving the big picture, the vision, the direction to reach $5 trillion economy, one of the main things, even the NBFC crisis that we've handled by giving a comprehensive picture, is to make available liquidity for the NBFCs, which help the last man who wants a small loan to run his business or to buy a house or to buy a car. These are kind of things which NBFCs have been doing. Today NBFCs are in a crisis situation. But the crisis is not attributable to one reason or one cause. But if it is liquidity, which is a cause, here we go. We have given a method through which a solution can be found, and for which Reserve Bank also has quickly come up with a notification. That's also a way in which we can spur growth in the economy.
So, Ms. Sitharaman, at the end of a budget that you've presented, your maiden budget, what's the one big message that comes from Nirmala Sitharaman heart? What's the message?
That it is a budget which is with the people, wanting to work for the people, and making sure that it is sensitive to the requirements of the common man. It's not just a theoretical exercise. It's not just an exercise through which I'm convincing those chatterati. It is definitely a budget through which I want to reach the ordinary citizen of the country.
And what's the secret behind giving up the briefcase this time? And out came a red kapda wrapped file, and many called it the Bahi Khata, which is normally the account book.
Yes.
Is that the new nomenclature of the briefcase?
I wanted to get over this colonial hangover of holding a briefcase, and I do remember seeing the British emblem E2R, Elizabeth II, Regina, and so on. But it's India, it's Indian budget. Why should we at all carry a suitcase, and that too,
So this is not a suitcase sarkar, this is not a case by case sarkar.
That's not a briefcase.
That's also the message.
It's not a briefcase sarkar.
So what was that red cloth?
It's essentially a document. I mean, it's in which you wrap the account book normally, but it was made into a nice file holder. So I kept the file into it and brought it to be read.
So file was a typed budget speech.
Yes.
Mr. Chidambaram also says next time he is going to make sure that a Congress finance minister carries an iPad.
Why not?
So you're not going all the way. Technology
at this stage I haven't.
And are you a satisfied person after the presentation?
We made the effort, and I've made an honest effort, and I'm very grateful that the Prime Minister gave me all the time whenever I required for consultation and to take the message of this government clearly through the budget speech. And yes.
And after the budget, did he say something to you on a personal note?
Yes, well, he did come and wish me, greeted me along with Home Minister and Gadkari, who was next to me. So yes, they all wished me.
What did he say? Any specific insights into the budget, anything about the budget or the way you presented it?
Yes, it was, it's a good encouraging comment. He said you presented it well.
Well, on that note, congratulations to you, Ms.
Thank you
Nirmala
very much.
Sitharaman,
Thank
for your first budget, and we'll keep chasing you on the question of deliveries, on the question of accountability of the government.
Absolutely, that's required, and I'll be very happy to answer any of those questions that you may want to raise.
Thank you very much for joining me on Frankly Speaking.
Thank you.